Welcome. This video serves as a redirect to my blind reaction video for the Talkartoons, Part 3. All essential links are conveniently provided in the description below. The first link will take you directly to the reaction video, while the remaining links lead to my various social media platforms. These include my Discord server, where you can join the community and engage in discussions, my Twitter for updates and insights, and my DeviantArt, where you can explore my creative works. To make things even more interactive, I've added a couple of polls for you to participate in and shape the future of the channel. One poll allows you to vote for the next cartoon series to replace Ninjago, and another lets you choose the anime series that will succeed Cells at Work. Your input is invaluable in guiding the content I create. Now, as promised, let's jump into the mini reviews for each episode featured in the reaction video. The first animated short I watched during this marathon was Ace of Spades. In this charming cartoon, Bimbo enters a building to play cards. Thanks to an extraordinary streak of luck, he wins every hand. However, his good fortune takes an unexpected turn when he leaves the game and gets into a car that takes him straight to jail. It was a delightful way to kick off the hour-long marathon. Interestingly, Ace of Spades was originally excluded from such collections as it was considered lost. That changed when Tommy Joe Stades revealed he had a 16mm print of the short. Despite this discovery, it remained largely unseen online until its full release in 2023. To properly include it in my marathon reaction, I donned the same outfit, recorded a separate reaction for this short, and seamlessly blended it into the final edit during post-production. The second animated short I watched was Tree Saps, a work that showcased impressive animation for its time. However, despite the technical artistry, I found the overall story rather lackluster. The plot centers around Bimbo, a lumberjack working at a logging camp. His primary challenge is feeding a seal coworker fish to keep the seal motivated and working. Unfortunately, the narrative doesn't expand much beyond this premise. The introduction of a twister at the end added some intrigue and variety, but it wasn't enough to fully redeem the short for me. While visually appealing, the limited storyline and pacing left it feeling unmemorable. I rated a 3/10 for the story, but the animation and storm scenes bump it up to a 5/10. The third animated short I watched was Teacher's Pest. As I've mentioned several times before, I'm generally not a fan of cartoons centered around school settings. They often come across as uninspired, lackluster, and overly cliché, which makes it difficult for me to truly enjoy them. However, in writing this review, I'll aim to be as fair as possible. The story follows Bimbo, depicted here as a young boy. After initially resisting, he reluctantly heads off to school. The teacher tries his best to maintain order and educate the class, but his efforts are largely in vain. Bimbo, being a constant troublemaker, stirs up mischief throughout. At one point, he's sent into the hallway, where he encounters a young, dog-eared version of Betty Boop. She is referred to as a child here and still unnamed in the series. Bimbo attempts to impress her in his typical fashion, adding a small romantic subplot to the chaos. Overall, I found the short to be just okay. While it's not particularly engaging for me due to its school-based premise, it's also not outright terrible. I'd rate it as 6/10. It's not my personal preference, but for those who enjoy this kind of setting, it might hold more appeal. Take my rating with that context in mind. The fourth animated short I watched was The Cow's Husband, featuring Seamus Culhane as one of the credited animators. The other contributor, Rudolph Eggman, is not listed in the credits for any previous works I've encountered, so it's worth highlighting his involvement here to ensure both artists receive proper recognition. This short raises an interesting question: do bullfighting cartoons in the American tradition consistently side with the bull? From my perspective, it seems so. I admit to having limited knowledge of animation trends in other countries, but I struggle to think of any examples where the audience is meant to root for the toreador. Even when the bull is portrayed as menacing or antagonistic, the underlying reality of the bull's grim fate makes it inherently sympathetic. This creates a narrative challenge. It is possible to make a toreador sympathetic. Bugs Bunny's bullfighting cartoon is an excellent example, but The Cow's Husband struggles in this regard. Bimbo, the protagonist, is a weaker character, even when employing the reality-bending gags reminiscent of Looney Tunes. The short's opening doesn't help either. The bull is given an extended, emotionally charged farewell scene with its children and even a pet fly. This firmly establishes the bull as the emotional center of the story, leaving Bimbo overshadowed in his own short. That said, the farewell scene delivers some unexpectedly sharp humor. The second child's reassuring line, "Don't worry, Daddy, we'll collect your insurance," had me laughing aloud. However, the follow-up, "Never mind, Pop, Mama's gonna buy us a new daddy," felt unnecessarily jarring. It carries a cynical, almost nihilistic tone more in line with modern dark humor, which I find less appealing these days. The ending, where the bulls unknowingly march to the butchers, reinforces this bleak undertone. While the short has its moments, it pales in comparison to stronger bullfighting cartoons, such as Bugs Bunny's iconic take on the theme. I'd rate The Cow's Husband a 3.5. It's not without merit, but there are far better examples of this subgenre to explore. One final note, the bull's dance sequence stands out due to its rotoscoped animation. The sudden shift to a smooth, elegant ballet figure is striking. Unfortunately, the identity of the original dancer who inspired the movements is likely lost to time. Similarly, it's unclear who adapted the original choreography to fit the bull's anatomy, but the effort does create a memorable, if fleeting, highlight in the animation. The fifth animated short I viewed was The Bum Bandit. In this film, Bimbo orchestrates a train robbery after forcing the train to stop. As part of his antics, he performs a song titled The Hold Up Rag. However, a twist ensues when a fearsome, bearded cowboy appears, intimidating Bimbo by devouring the barrel of his gun. In an unexpected reveal, the cowboy sheds his beard and costume to disclose that he is actually Betty Boop, though in this short, she is referred to as Dangerous Nan McGrew, a nod to the title character of the 1930 film. Betty, furious at Bimbo for abandoning her, drags him through a pond before tossing him into the locomotive. She then disconnects the engine from the rest of the train, and together they ride off. The duo humorously hangs their wet clothes, including Betty's undergarments, to dry on a line over the locomotive's cabin. I rate this short a 6/10 for its entertaining twists and playful energy. Here are some additional notes. 1. This marks the first time Betty Boop is portrayed with her iconic slender physique, though she is yet to be officially named. 2. Grim Natwick, an uncredited animator in this short, deserves recognition for his contributions. Unfortunately, many early cartoons failed to acknowledge their talented animators. 3. While unrelated to the short itself, I recommend watching the 1930 film Dangerous Nan McGrew for context. It's a solid movie that complements this short's themes and character reference. The sixth animated short I watched was The Mailman, a 1930s Fleischer cartoon featuring Bimbo as a mail carrier. The title humorously swaps mail for mail, though the reason remains unclear. Bimbo's routine delivery takes a strange turn when hooded monsters give him a letter to deliver under the sea. As he journeys, the envelope grows mysteriously larger, eventually tearing and spilling smaller envelopes as Bimbo falls off a cliff into the ocean. Underwater, he encounters a house and a dancing figure he mistakes for a siren. To his horror, the siren is actually a fearsome octopus, the letter's intended recipient. A chase ensues, adding to the short's surreal tone. The cartoon features the 1929 song Step by Step, popularized by Walter Van Brunt and Billy Murray. Uncredited animation by Grim Natwick again. A bizarre but fun short, 7/10. The seventh animated short I reviewed is titled 20 Legs Under the Sea. The title references Jules Verne's renowned science fiction adventure novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a cornerstone of classic literature celebrated for its imaginative storytelling and influence on both the science fiction and adventure genres. I included this brief historical context for those unfamiliar with the reference. In the short, the protagonist, Bimbo, is depicted fishing alone in a lifeboat when he hooks what appears to be a significant catch. However, the situation takes a dire turn as the creature pulls him beneath the ocean's surface. The narrative concludes with Bimbo submerged underwater, leaving viewers with the impression that he is drowned. Unfortunately, the short failed to leave a lasting impression. Its execution felt uninspired, resulting in a bland and forgettable experience. I would rate it a 4/10, not the worst animated short I've seen, but far from noteworthy. The eighth animated short I watched was Silly Scandals. This early Fleischer Studios cartoon features Bimbo, who sneaks into a vaudeville theater for a stage show. Notably, this short introduces Betty Boop by name, though she is only referred to as Betty, with no surname yet. Betty appears on stage as the star attraction, showcasing her original design, which includes canine features such as dog ears, a white button nose, numerous curls, and an oversized head. She performs a lively rendition of the song You're Driving Me Crazy, captivating the audience. During her performance, there's a risque moment where her dress slips off, revealing a frilly bra, a signature example of the pre-code era's boundary-pushing humor. Meanwhile, Bimbo finds himself in a comedic altercation with a stage hypnotist, adding to the short's chaotic charm. Overall, Silly Scandals offers an intriguing glimpse into the evolution of Betty Boop's character and the playful, experimental nature of early animation. I would rate it a 6/10 for its historical significance and entertainment value. The 9th animated short I watched was The Herring Murder Case. I've been attempting to view these cartoons in chronological order based on their original release dates. While some individual shorts have dedicated Wikipedia pages, many of the earlier ones in the series do not. However, as the series transitions from a focus on Bimbo to the iconic Betty Boop, more of the entries are accompanied by detailed pages. Unfortunately, The Herring Murder Case lacks such documentation, so I'm relying on my memory to recount the plot. In this short, a character named the Herring is mysteriously murdered, prompting Detective Bimbo to take on the case and track down the culprit. Of particular note, this cartoon marks the first sound appearance of Coco the Clown, an important milestone for the character. 6/10. The 10th animated short I had the pleasure of watching was Bimbo's Initiation, a renowned classic that ranks number 37 in the book The 50 Greatest Cartoons. Its inclusion in such a prestigious list is a testament to its excellence and lasting impact on animation. The story begins with a chorus of college fraternity brothers cheerfully proclaiming their intent to induct Bimbo into their secret society. Bimbo, casually whistling "Go In and Out the Window," strolls down the street, only to fall unexpectedly into an open manhole. A character resembling Mickey Mouse swiftly seals the manhole behind him, sending Bimbo sliding down a long chute into the eerie underground lair of the secret society. The society's masked leader poses a recurring question: would you like to be a member? Each time Bimbo declines, he is subjected to a series of perilous, surreal trials. Despite the escalating danger, Bimbo steadfastly refuses their invitations. Finally, in a surprising twist, the leader reveals their true identity, none other than Betty Boop. With a mesmerizing dance, Betty captivates Bimbo, prompting him to change his mind and accept the invitation. As a final reveal, the other society members unveil themselves to also be Betty. The short concludes with a jubilant celebration, as they all dance to Byron Gay's lively tune, The Vamp. Bimbo's Initiation is a masterclass in surreal, nightmarish animation, showcasing Fleischer Studios' unparalleled creativity and bold storytelling. Its hauntingly unique atmosphere and innovative style have solidified its place as one of the most iconic animated shorts of its era. In my opinion, it deserves a perfect 10/10. The 11th animated short I watched was Bimbo's Express. In this cartoon, Bimbo arrives at Betty Boop's home accompanied by his assistants to assist her with moving out. Upon seeing Betty, Bimbo is immediately smitten and serenades her with "Hello Beautiful," mimicking Maurice Chevalier's distinctive voice. The animation humorously depicts the teen loading Betty's belongings onto the moving van, with an exaggerated gag that includes taking the stairs from her house, a moment I found particularly amusing. Once everything is packed, Betty joins Bimbo in the driver's seat, and they set off to relocate around the corner. The short is charming and whimsical, with a playful sense of humor that adds to its appeal. Overall, I'd rate it a 7/10 for its lighthearted and entertaining storyline. The 12th animated short I viewed was Minding the Baby. The storyline centers on Bimbo's family dynamics and his chaotic babysitting experience. The narrative begins with Bimbo's mother, who has fallen out with her husband and embarked on an affair with the neighborhood Iceman. She leaves Bimbo in charge of his mischievous baby brother, Aloysius, while she goes shopping. During this time, Betty Boop makes her debut with her full name featured in the titles for the first time, stylized as Betty Boop. She invites Bimbo over to her house to play, and he sneaks away, leaving Aloysius unattended. Predictably, Aloysius begins to wreak havoc. The baby's antics escalate when he uses a vacuum cleaner to cause a commotion, ultimately vacuuming up Betty, Bimbo, and even their mother from the street outside. When Bimbo's mother returns and discovers the chaos, she is furious. Betty, Bimbo, and Aloysius hide behind a chair in Bimbo's apartment to avoid her wrath. In a final attempt to calm the situation, Bimbo zips Aloysius's mouth shut as the baby starts to cry. Overall, I found this short to be more frustrating than entertaining. The chaotic storyline and Aloysius's antics felt grating rather than humorous. I would rate this one a disappointing 3/10. I want to address that some episodes have unfortunately been lost over time. As a result, I had to skip over episode 27, In the Shade of the Old Apple Sauce. It's quite disappointing to miss out on this piece of history, as it would have been fascinating to include it in the viewing experience. The 13th animated short I watched was Masquerade, a Betty Boop cartoon with an intriguing and somewhat risque storyline for its time. The plot centers around Betty Boop as the queen of a masquerade ball, where she finds herself frustrated by the advances of the king of the ball, whose persistent flirting becomes overbearing. Meanwhile, Bimbo, who harbors feelings for Betty, employs clever Italian-style scatting to distract and outwit the king, allowing him to spend time with her. However, the king soon catches on, leading to a tug-of-war over Betty that culminates in her skirt being lifted, briefly revealing her underwear and garters. A small creature quickly intervenes, pinning her dress back in place. Amused but unimpressed by the squabble, Betty proposes a duel to settle the matter. She produces 2 wooden swords, one large, one small, and tosses a coin to determine who gets which. Bimbo ends up with the smaller sword, putting him at a disadvantage. Despite his efforts, Bimbo loses the fight and is carried off by a knight, who is soon revealed to be Betty in disguise. With a cheeky smile, Betty asks Bimbo, "What would you say if I married you?" The cartoon concludes with Bimbo responding in his signature Italian scatting. Overall, I'd rate this short a 6/10. It was enjoyable and featured some notable firsts in the Talkartoons series. 1. Betty Boop as a human. This is the first short where her character is depicted with hoop earrings instead of her original dog ears, marking an important evolution in her design. 2. Separate title card for credits. Masquerade is the first Talkartoon to introduce a distinct title card for the director and animator credits, which is a commendable step forward in recognizing the creator's contributions. The 14th animated short I watched was Jack and the Beanstalk, a retelling of the classic fairy tale. In this version, Bimbo plants magic beans that grow into a towering beanstalk. Upon climbing it, he discovers Betty Boop, who has been enslaved and forced to cook for the hungry giant. Bimbo bravely rescues Betty, and together they escape using a magical flying hen. While the short is entertaining, it lacks originality, as it essentially rehashes the well-known story without introducing significant new elements or creative twists. Given its execution, I would rate it a 6/10. However, it's worth noting a key detail for historical context. This short appears to have been carried over from an earlier production phase, as it marks the final time Betty Boop is depicted as a dog, despite her transformation into a fully human character in the preceding episode. The last animated short I watched was Dizzy Red Riding Hood, a creative reimagining of the classic Little Red Riding Hood tale. In this version, Betty Boop takes center stage as the titular character. The story begins with Betty preparing to visit her grandmother, despite warnings from talking trees about wolves roaming the woods. Along the way, Betty is followed by Bimbo, a charming and loyal character, while a hungry wolf armed with a knife and fork begins to stalk her. Bimbo intervenes heroically, skinning the wolf before it can harm Betty. Disguised in the wolf's skin, Bimbo reaches Betty's grandmother's house first, posing alternately as both the wolf and her grandmother. Betty arrives shortly after and performs a delightful rendition of Where'd You Get Those Eyes? The cartoon concludes with Betty being lifted into the air, Bimbo revealing his true identity, and the pair embracing romantically on the moon. Overall, I'd rate the short a 6/10. It was enjoyable, albeit not groundbreaking. Since I'm currently watching these shorts chronologically, I thought it would be interesting to compare Dizzy Red Riding Hood with 2 other shorts featuring Little Red Riding Hood themes. Little Red Riding Hood. This short, part of Walt Disney's early Laugh-O-Gram series, is one of Disney's first attempts at animated storytelling. It presents a unique take on the traditional tale, produced using inked line drawings on paper rather than animation cells. While simplistic and experimental, it's historically significant as a precursor to Disney's later work. Old King Cole. While not a direct adaptation of Little Red Riding Hood, this short includes the character briefly, which warrants its inclusion here. The story unfolds in Storyland, where nursery rhyme characters, including Red and the Wolf, gather for Old King Cole's party. The highlight of the cartoon is its vibrant color animation and lively musical numbers, though the connection to Red Riding Hood is tenuous at best. Rankings. After watching and reflecting on these shorts, here's how I rank them. First place, Dizzy Red Riding Hood. This short takes the top spot for its entertaining adaptation, charming characters, and the delightful chemistry between Betty and Bimbo. Second place, Little Red Riding Hood. Although simplistic and slightly surreal, this short earns its place for its historical significance as a pioneering Disney animation. Third place, Old King Cole. While visually appealing and fun, this short isn't a true adaptation of the Little Red Riding Hood story. However, its inclusion on the wiki justifies its ranking here. Despite its loose connection, the brief appearances of Red and the Wolf add a whimsical touch to the overall production. Since I began incorporating reviews into my redirect videos to enhance their content and increase their length for the YouTube algorithm, production has been taking a bit more time. Your support means the world, so if you haven't already, please consider booping that subscribe button. It truly makes a difference. While you're at it, feel free to leave a comment below. I read every single one, and your feedback helps shape future content. Thanks for rocking with me, and I'll catch you in the next video.